A motion to approve changing from trimester to semester system and discussion about the graduation requirements. And I know we've got some information and you had some information to share as well.
Mr. Nelson has my copy, so I'm going to let him do the talking.
Okay.
Basically, looking at the scheduling that we're looking at for next year, the trimester system, the philosophy of it is not working here for a couple of reasons. One, it's developed mainly for remediating students who fail courses, or two, being able to offer specialty courses for students, upper level, that kind of nature. What we're running into with the staff reductions that we've had, we're having students fail at about a handful. So we're offering small class sizes, which we can't do anymore. We can't have sections of 12 kids to remediate an Algebra 1A. I think it's better spent offering those hours over the course of the year and trying not to let them fail, bring them along. And the specialty courses have gone away because of dual enrollment, online courses, or they become blended because we have to have a place to put kids. So we can't offer an AP course, because at least an AP course just in itself, because it's 8 kids. And we have to have a place to put 30 kids. So we don't have the staff to run a true trimester schedule the way it's meant to be. So in putting it back to a semester, we can keep kids locked into core classes, offer more hours of instruction, so that hopefully we either don't let kids fail because we have increased time for intervention. Upper level kids, we can take deeper. We'll still have kids coming from the middle school that'll be taking geometry instead of algebra the first year. So now they'll have a greater length of time to go deeper into geometry, but still go into the calc classes, upper level classes when they get there. So it's really kind of a numbers game of why I believe that semesters is probably a better situation for us here at Morley Stanwood. So there's some paperwork type issues. Cheryl Berry is our only counselor, and she is, doing schedule changes 3 times a year right now, plus scheduling for the following year. This way we can eliminate one of those times and take a little bit of the burden off her.
People costs.
Yep, people costs. So I guess that's the reason why I believe it's a little better system.
One of the questions, I'm going to just interject, Cindy in an email had asked the question in regards to by going to semesters, what will that do in regards to students who go to the tech center? And coincidentally, Mr. Fitch was down last Thursday, and he and Jamie sat and talked, and he and Cheryl have looked into that prior and worked it out. I'm going to let you explain.
He was concerned because other schools are contemplating going back to semesters
as well,
and having different change times. Like Reed City's right now is on a 5-period semester, so their change time with Career Tech is at weird times. Their kids get there a little bit later, they leave later or earlier, so their instructional time is kind of messed up. When we looked at our semester schedule, we decided to make sure we don't touch our times. Keep all the time the same. Teacher contract time, instructional time at the Career Tech. So what we did is increase from 1 credit of Career Tech to 1.5 credits. So our students cover 3 periods there now. They still leave at 8:05 from here, and now instead of getting back in the middle of a class, they get back at lunchtime. So we're also going to cut down 2 additional lunches. The lunches will be in the middle of the day back to back, and kids will either be in academic advisory for MME prep, reading literacy groups, or focus on homework, or they'll be at lunch. We won't be this 50-kid academic advisory that's at lunch. That'll be taken care of. There won't be kids leaving class early to go to lunch. They'll be able to get lunch, get on the bus, and go to Career Tech. So it's a little bit cleaner that way as well.
Okay.
On the Career Center now, they have to have math up there. They give math, and how is that credit going to work into us? Because the students up there have to have, right now I believe, 2 years of math through the Career Center. Is that still going to stay the same? So that,
Yes.
that wouldn't change.
They will earn a credit and a half elective here, but because they still be receiving the same instructional time for the Algebra 2, they would still only get the 1 credit of Algebra 2 over the 2 years. Or they would get the Algebra 2 credit and the senior year math credit additional.
So that's not gonna affect that?
That, nothing at the career tech will change, that will all stay the same. Because the instructional time at the career tech center is not changing. Their
The math-
instructional time here is changing.
The math credit they get up there is what they developed, what they call crosswalks, from the vocational courses into the core content courses, classes requiring the math, for example, and we don't want to mess with that at all, so that's okay. And Reed City, who's at
Reed
5,
City's
is looking at going to
contemplating
6,
going to a 6.
contemplating going to 6. And the thought was, Dr. Finch's thought was that big graduates would consider it, but they would probably be the last to do it. And Chippewa won't. But this won't affect our kids that way.
Okay. What,
Everett doing it? Not doing it?
Don't know.
I don't remember. I don't know.
can you explain the color coding?
Yeah.
You like color?
Basically, I took all the.
I'm thinking yellow is freshman.
Yeah, I took all the subject areas out of there because what I didn't want to do is get out there and think that we'd already assigned what teachers were teaching what, because we have not done that yet. We've not run any numbers yet. The yellow would be the freshman academy idea.
Okay.
That's coming farther along. I hope that either the March or the April board meeting, I can bring a complete package for what the freshman academy will look like, or at least what we're going to start with.
Okay.
Transitioning. So those are the teachers that I've talked to that we've kind of linked to the freshman academy. And the only reason their names are in there is because they're the teachers right now that are teaching majority of the freshmen anyway. So they already know the curriculum, and it would be the transition there. Blue was sophomores, the greenish color was juniors, purple was special ed, and the seniors were the orange colors that are spread around. Our focus is going to be up until the ACT MME testing window. So our focus is really the freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. That's where the curriculum has to be stellar to get to that testing window. The seniors, unfortunately, in the state of Michigan, they don't
count
matter.
for anything.
They really don't. There's no exit test when it comes to seniors. So when you get to their senior year, my feeling is that curriculum doesn't have to be as linear, as defined. We're still going to follow state standards, but we might have multiple teachers teaching sections to seniors rather than having, like Josh Bull teaching Algebra 1, where it's consistent for each and every kid, the way he's teaching, terminology, all that's in line. Mm-hmm. That'll be different for the seniors that are leaving. And that's just because I don't have the ability to lock teachers into a senior year. I can do it for 3 years. I can't do it for 4. Okay. So that's what the color coding is. It's just
What's the black for?
Okay.
prep.
What was red again? I'm sorry.
Red is elective courses. So that's open hours they have right now. And those would change. Bob Raven, you can see, only has 1 senior class scheduled. He does a business math class, and he has 4 electives. He would have some special ed in there.
Okay, we also talked about on this same motion, high school graduation requirement.
Yep, on the front page of that, you can see Cheryl's worked out a step down in the credits needed to graduate. Because right now, students take 7.5 credits a year. In the new system, the semester system, they only take 6. So in total, they only have 24. Right now, they have 30. So there has to be a step down in the opportunity to graduate. So it would be 23. That does still take into account, it'd be actually 21 core credits, and then over the course of 4 years, because of academic advisory quarter credits, they would get up to 23.
Let's go back to your color.
Yep.
Van Streen,
Yep.
he's black all the way across except for the last period. Why?
Because he teaches middle school and elementary, I only have him 1 hour a
So,
day.
and then he's going to the elementaries and the middle school.
He teaches,
Right.
middle school band, which would be the hours before that, probably 4th and 5th. He would have
Okay.
7th grade band, 6th grade band, and then in the morning, he would still have his elementary specials. And it's the same thing, I didn't put her on. Kelly Price, if she was on here, would be the same thing.
1 hour
She teaches
here.
1 hour of Spanish for me, and the rest she's in the middle school, the elementary.
Okay. Do you think it's gonna be, this is completely putting you on the spot, so sorry. Is it gonna be easier to get a decent schedule for kids going back to semesters? I know that's been a huge struggle where, you know, they may be taking art twice over the course of their high school or whatever. Are we thinking that that's gonna help a little bit?
I don't know, because depending on where we end up with cuts and such,
Okay,
core classes will look better, I believe.
okay,
I think electives, electives are the point where they truly need to be blended classes where multiple levels are offered at a time, so it's not art one. It's
Right.
art 1, 2, 3.
right,
And
Which is not uncommon.
Which is studio art anyway.
right,
And because we don't have, unfortunately, we don't have the ability to, like I said, lock up a teacher for an AP class.
Mhm.
Now, we've had some discussion with some of our math and English teachers to bring back some honors courses
mhm,
and use Explore, Plan, that's the ACT results, to use that data and push them into the upper level classes,
right,
not give them the option to take something else.
right,
Now, that's fine and dandy, but if a parent calls and demands, they can't make their kid take honors.
right,
So it's something we say that education is best and we schedule them that way, but we do have to make, if a parent really complains. The one way we can help that, I believe, and again, that's a whole nother discussion that I haven't even time to think about, is accelerating some classes, putting some of those classes on a 5-point scale, such as juniors honors English, senior honor English, calculus, biology 2, anatomy and physiology, to draw some of those kids in there that want to go for the highest honors we have.
Right.
Because right now, what's the advantage of taking an honors English class and a regular English class if they're weighted the same?
right, right. And you and
Now
I,
now they take an honors class, they get a B, they get behind the 8 ball from a kid that took a regular English class and got an A.
right,
Whereas if we accelerate the class, now if they get a B, they've taken a harder curriculum, a better curriculum,
right.
but it equals the same as an A in a regular class.
And that's something that we think we can probably pull off or look at doing.
Well, I think parents would be more apt to keep their kid in the class if there's a benefit.
Yeah, I agree. And we had talked a little bit about, you and I did when I popped in that one day, about that we could, some of our kids that come through some of those higher level classes could probably sit for the AP tests, and we could maybe even host them here.
Yeah, we could take those honors classes, if they're accelerated, get a good number in there so we can actually run it. Offer it as an AP prep class, not an AP class, because that takes special training from the teachers,
Right.
and it's expensive and timely. So, but we could offer it as an AP prep, they can teach a higher curriculum. I know there's people in Ken Main's calculus class that could go take the calculus AP test and pass it. I know there is.
Okay.
So there's a way we can, make it more alluring by making an AP prep and possibly accelerating it to get kids to want to go in there.
Okay.
We have a very convenient dual enrollment process though, so it makes it difficult to keep the numbers here.
Right.
A student can also take calculus
Thank you.
at Ferris
Credit
and
for it.
receive that college credit for it.
Right.
Whereas an AP test is not guaranteed credit.
Right.
Taking the college class is guaranteed credit.
Sure.
And unfortunately, the state says we can't deny
Right.
dual enrollment.
And I understand that completely. I really like the idea of elevating the curriculum. I mean, my kids are graduated now, but I would have completely been on board with pushing my kids through something that's going to get them a little better prepped for college, knowing that they were both going to go. I mean, I think you'll get a lot of parent buy-in for that.
There's another added benefit, we don't want to be
No, go ahead.
He has 18 and a half teachers or so. Under this plan, every one of those teachers are going to be in front of kids 15 minutes longer every day.
Correct.
And that's more instructional time for the kids. And, it's just a better use of their time. And it puts the prep time kind of evenly, with my building as well.
Okay.
I figured out the hours of instruction per full credit compared to Reed City, who's on a 5-hour semester. They're putting about 108 hours of instruction into a full credit. where under this one will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 165.
Okay.
So we'll have almost 60 hours more of instruction.
And we'll have some things in place, this predates you, to make sure that we're instructing for the whole entire time. We
Well,
had discussions
the
about that.
periods will only be 55 minutes.
Really only, yeah, 55 minutes, not like a 90-minute block, it's 55 minutes, that's not. And you gotta remember, they have, I mean, we don't have pacing guides set, but they have to get through, a certain amount of curriculum.
Okay.
I mean, I can understand what you're alluding to, like you said, that's before our time.
Right.
And one of the other problems with the trimester when it was implemented here, I believe, because it's the same thing I went through when I was at Shepherd teaching the implemented trimester there was no training.
Yeah,
There
no.
was an increased time, well, this actually was decreased from block,
Right.
but now all of a sudden you're going through 3 transitions, breaking it up over, 2 of 3, teaching 2 of 3. There was no training of how to resequence it, rescope it, become standards based. That's a huge lack here in the high school. There's a lot of teachers that weren't given direction on standard-based instruction.
Right, right.
So they had to try to figure out a lot around it, which they did, but there was people out there that could have helped make that a lot smoother transition.
Okay.
So that's what we're trying to do.
Just my other thought, if we're going to do, like, art is a good example, so we're gonna have art 1, 2, and 3, and all those kids can be in the same class, kind of working at their own pace. And I think I asked this of you before, I think. Anyways, for like honors English or AP prep English, let's say, if there aren't enough seniors we're not sure, or enough juniors if we're not sure to run 2 separate, can we do that same concept with those classes where maybe you've got juniors and seniors in the same prep class, but the juniors are doing a little bit lower level, and then they'll build up and do the higher level their senior year, so we can make a full class? Is that doable?
Under the old system, it would have been very doable. Under the Husky system, the Common Core is different because it differentiates the grade levels.
Very.
Before the Huskies for English were similar.
Okay.
All the elements were the same. They just went deeper and deeper and deeper as they went through the curriculum.
Okay.
Now there's a lot more specific stuff in each grade level.
So the teacher would really be teaching 2 completely separate
Two
things in the same
separate
classroom.
classes, yes.
So our goal
I'm not
is
saying it's impossible, but
tough.
We will have to look and see how much correlates.
Okay. So we really just would have to have the goal of getting enough kids to take those classes.
And that's why we'll have to utilize,
And then-
test assessment scores that we have available, grades,
Okay.
attendance, discipline, all that stuff to wrap into, who could be a successful honor student. The other problem with juniors and seniors is you run into career tech and dual enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
And that divides them, so if you put it in the afternoon, in the morning, you're trying to shift kids around to make sure
Right,
you've got 25 kids that can go into that classroom.
right. How tough is it to elevate those classes to have them be weighted a little bit more? Is that hard?
Probably right now is the perfect time to start attempting that because we are shifting to the Common Core.
Right. Okay,
So actually, if we're going to do it now, is probably the time to look into that.
okay.
And then these 8th graders right now are the first ones that are going to take the Common Core exam.
Mhm.
By the time they're juniors, that would give a junior teacher 2 years to really prep the course.
Okay.
Not only get the level for everybody, but then also, what areas are they going to take deeper that would match, an AP test.
Okay. And you're kind of leaning toward that thought?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
No, that's okay.
Bombard you with
And I haven't had a lot of
questions.
chance to talk about accelerating classes because that does add a level of difficulty in some aspects.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I understand that. I just think it's something we need to do so that we're staying on par with everyone around us, so.
I have a
And
question.
our teachers are on board for that too.
Okay.
We have teachers that want honors classes,
Okay,
but for some reason we've got to figure out how to get the numbers in those classes.
okay.
I've questioned for the last couple of years whether we've had enough staff to facilitate this trimester. Anyways, but I have a question. What percentage of this decision, generalized decision, going from the trimester to semester, would you attribute to us preparing the kids to the state, for the state mandated tests?
I would say probably 25%. I know that seems low, because in the trimester system, going standards-based, we're preparing them for the test. What I believe this does, by stretching it back out, lets us prepare them for the test, but also starts to let us put some of the stuff back in, you know, especially like history classes, bringing back in some of the social acceptable, you know, looking into some of the Martin Luther King or John F. Kennedy, some of that stuff, and looking at the social times. Also looking at citizenship, how to behave in society. You know, right now our teachers feel so cramped in 2 trimesters to get that stuff in. We have to try to create other classes to give them that. Or if we just stretch out the ones that are required, now we can do it right in the class. So I guess a better answer is probably 50-50. Yeah, because I think we also still have a huge social obligation in the school, not only a standard state assessment obligation, but a social obligation as well.
You know, it bothers me that the state is forcing us to focus on all this like a laser so much that I think they kind of lose track of the social part of it. You know what I mean?
And the Common Core, from what I've seen so far with the math and English, seem to improve that.
Yeah.
Because there's a whole bunch of project-based learning, so there's cooperative groups and so on like that. It's better.
And there's something to be said, when I was a teacher, for building a relationship with kids over time. I mean, under the 4x4, we had them for 18 weeks, and we didn't have kids moving in, kids moving out. We didn't have a part A, part B, part 1, part 2. Classes develop a demeanor all their own. You know, sometimes it's a class you just are going to be real happy to get rid of, but, you know, most of the times you really develop those long-term relationships. It's a shame to see them over in 13 weeks.
One improvement is if there's a class that has students that shouldn't be together in that class, by teaching it over a complete year and not having the mix and match of, you know, an A class in the second try or the third or first try versus a B class, we can switch kids around a little bit easier. If we have 3 kids that should not be together in a class, we can separate them. We can move them. And, you know, the freshman class will really end up nice because we're going to be able to balance those classes based on, you know, middle school success, so that they're balanced, have an idea of what's coming in, and move them around into the most successful groupings we can. Because that is the most difficult year we have right now.
And the Freshman Academy, I really look forward to being able to have us present more of that, is a very exciting opportunity.
That's cool. I guess my final thought on all of this, when we get it all kind of finalized, and if we roll out the Freshman Academy, it might be worthwhile to have, you know, some kind of couple evening meetings for high school parents or 8th grade parents and really market it well.
Yes.
The Freshman Academy.
And changes in the high school and the whole thing.
If I can, the Freshman Academy is going to look a lot like the 7th and 8th grade. So it's going to be something very similar that parents are going to be already familiar with, that the kids are with a core set of teachers for a specified period of time and go out to the specials all together, so that there's common planning and professional learning community among the teachers. So it won't be that new to the parents.
Right.
Actually, the parents coming from my building to the trimester, that's what was new, really new.
Yeah.
So-
The whole concept of the Freshman Academy, though, I think should be reassuring to parents as you're sending your kid to the high school, which is kind of scary anyway, knowing that they're going to be a little more corralled and a little more mentored rather than just, here you go.
Yeah. And we know it's the toughest year.
I think you find it interesting coming from a former student. My daughter right now is taking calculus in college. And she had, when she took the pre-calculus here, she had 3.5 average there. And our grade was final grade. But she really is she's getting a little help. She's being tutored and everything else. But it's really, stressing her out because she says, this came from her now. She says, I don't think that Mr. Bowe had enough time to teach us. Quote unquote. That's coming from a former student. Does that have some meaning here? I would think so. That came off the wall. I didn't say anything to her about semesters
So
or,
imagine seeing a student an extra 5 weeks.
Right?
yeah.
And especially a class like math, because Bria was in the same boat, went to college and had a heck of a time first semester. I mean, she pulled off the grade, but she was in that tutoring lab all the time and visiting Mr. Bull when she was home on Friday afternoons getting math help, so.
Well, in the middle trimester is a mess anyway, because you have Christmas break in there. I mean, this year was 11 school days off,
Yeah.
and now we've had a snow day.
President's Day weekend.
You know, so in that middle trimester, they lose days so
Terrible.
fast,
And
and
this
you
is where
end up adding them on the end, but
You add them
it
in
doesn't help
June.
the second try.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. How many of last year's, what do you guys have, 9 snow days you had to make up? How many of last year's snow days were in the second try?
And,
Right.
Yeah, and right now, it's almost impossible to extend the second try because you run into testing week.
Sure.
So you'd have to jump over testing weeks. Now you've had Christmas break, testing week break, President's Day weekend, 4 days off.
Yeah.
There's no there's no fluid motion to that second trimester.
And in fact, my building went back to 9 weeks. Like, it doesn't really pertain because they don't have credits and requirements and all of that. But my staff just felt that November to March was just too long. And I had conversations with kids, you gotta get your grades up this time of year. And they're like, why? You know, I'm already too deep and it's too long. So at least this way they get a new fresh start every 9 weeks.
Sure.
So,
It's very wonderful to see the academic focus at high school. As a board member, I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. And that's why I'm saying we need to market that because, it's nice that we're having this conversation and now you know, 4 people in the audience know what's going on, but, I think if the rest of the parents in the high school had this conversation, they would be blown away by all the changes, so. I think it's good. So. Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Any other comments on that topic? Okay, would someone like to make a motion to approve changing from a trimester to semester and along with the graduation requirement change?
I'll make the motion.
I support.
It's been moved and supported to approve changing from a trimester to a semester system and along with the graduation requirements that go with that. Roll call. No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.